Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's begin today's daily quiz. Question number 1 on your screen is this. Consider the following statements with regards to the National Population Register, that is NPR. Number 1. NPR has been termed as the register of usual residents of the country by the Office of the Registrar General and the Census Commissioner. Second, a usual resident for the NPR is a person who has lived in an area for at least 1 year or more, or a person who intends to live in an area for the next 1 year or more. Third, the Registrar General of Citizen Registration would be responsible for providing the notification regarding the duration of the enumeration in the official gazette. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer to this question is C. That is, first and the third statements are absolutely correct about the NPR. The second statement is wrong because the condition is that the person should be living in that area or intends to live in that area for the next 6 months and not 1 year. So, at both these places, the condition is of 6 months. NPR is usually an exercise carried out before the census so that the government knows and has a database of the citizens living in a specific area. The reason why we are asking this question is because of this news article in the Hindu newspaper today that talks about the updated NPR still having questions which the people have objected to. The first ever NPR was compiled in the year 2010. The present NPR will collect details on 14 parameters of all the family members. Along with the census, this NPR will also be updated digitally for the first time ever, and a special app has been developed for people who would be conducting the census and the NPR throughout the country. Moving on to the second question. Consider the following statements with regards to the Gorkhaland Territorial Administration, also known as the GTA. Number 1. The Gorkhaland Territorial Administration is an autonomous district council for the Darjeeling and Kalimpong areas of West Bengal. Second, the GTA was formed in 2012 to replace the Darjeeling Gorkha Hill Council. Third, the formation of GTA resulted from a tripartite agreement between the union government, the state government, and the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here is D. All the three given statements are correct. Now, you all should be aware of the demand for Gorkha land, that is, a demand for carving out a new state out of West Bengal, majorly having areas of Darjeeling and the Kalimpong district. The people living in this area have a different ethnicity as compared to the people living in other parts of West Bengal. The demand for Gorkha land is about 80 years old and has also turned violent many times. Since 2012, the government of West Bengal has created the Gorkha Land Territorial Administration, that is the GTA, as an autonomous body which would have the authority to take policy decisions regarding the people living in the area that is supposed to be a part of the Gorkha land. However, the problem is since the formation of GTA, the elections in the GTA have not been regular. The state government has been delaying the elections, and that is why this has been covered in the Hindu newspaper today. That is, Mamata Banerjee, the Chief Minister of West Bengal, has made a statement that she would conduct elections of GTA as soon as the voter list in the state is updated. The Chief Minister also allocated 43 crore rupees of budget to the Gorkha Land Territorial Administration. Next question, number 3. Consider the following statements with regards to languages in India and choose the incorrect one. Number 1. Rajbhasha Bharati is a quarterly magazine published by the Department of Official Language and is dedicated to encouraging Hindi writing in the fields of technology, information, literature, etc. Second, there is no fixed criteria for any language to be included in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution. Third, Since 2018, members of parliament can speak in any of the 22 languages in the 8th schedule after giving a 24 hours prior notice. And fourth, none of the above. Since you have to choose the incorrect one, the correct answer here is D, since all the first three statements are correct. As you know, the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution has 22 languages. It had 14 languages in the beginning. Over time, languages have been added to it, but there is no fixed criteria that is used for including a language in the 8th schedule. That is why many other languages apart from these 22 have also been demanding their inclusion in the 8th schedule. The most prominent among them is the Tulu language, which is a Dravidian language spoken in parts of Kerala and Karnataka. The reason why we are asking this question is because of this small piece of news in the Indian Express today, according to which two new Rajya Sabha members, while taking their oath, took oath in their respective mother tongues. This was appreciated by the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, that is the Honorable Vice President of India. Next, question number 4. Electoral bonds are sold by number 1, all the scheduled commercial banks in India. Second, all the scheduled public sector banks in India. Third, all the scheduled private sector banks in India. Or fourth, only a few designated branches of the State Bank of India. The correct answer here is D. Only a few SBI branches have been given this authority to sell electoral bonds. Now, electoral bonds are a method to donate money to political parties. As you know, as per the present regulations, the maximum cash donation that you can give to a political party is rupees 2000. Above that, if you have to donate to a political party, you have to buy electoral bonds, which are sold at a few branches of the State Bank of India. Also, you can't just walk in any time to buy this. There are specific days allotted when the SBI branches sell these electoral bonds. The reason why we are asking this question is because of this news in the Indian Express today that talks about electoral bonds. It talks about how many electoral bonds were purchased between October 1 and October 10. So, as you can see, only 10 days in October were designated for electoral bonds to be sold. Once the electoral bonds are purchased, you cannot donate it to any political party. The condition is electoral bonds can only be given to those political parties that had at least 1% votes in the last general elections, either of the Lok Sabha or of the state legislative assembly. So the party must have got at least 1% votes in the last general elections in order to get those electoral bonds. Also, the electoral bonds are anonymous, that is, even if you buy them, they will not have your name. These are in the form of bearer bonds. Bearer bonds means the person who has it is considered as the owner of that bond, like a currency note. If you have a currency note, then you are the owner of that note. That is how the electoral bonds work. Electoral bonds are valid up to 15 days from the date of issue. So within 15 days, you have to give it to the political party and they have to deposit that in their respective bank account, and the SBI will transfer the money to the bank account without any interest earned on that. Next, question number 5, which is a previous year question from 2019. With reference to the forced labor or Vishti in India during the Gupta period, which one of the following statements is correct? Number 1. It was considered a source of income for the state, a sort of tax paid by the people. Second, it was totally absent in Madhya Pradesh and Kathiawar regions of the Gupta Empire. Third, the forced laborer was entitled to weekly wages. And fourth, the eldest son of the laborer was sent as a forced laborer. The correct answer to this question is A. It was kind of a tax that the state imposed. So rather than taking tax in the form of money, the state used to take tax in the form of forced labor from the people. This forced labor during the Gupta era was called as Vishti. This was present in Gujarat and Malwa regions as well, as could be seen from the Junagadh inscription. It was not a wage based labor, it was forced labor, so people were not given wages in return. Also, it could be extracted from anyone and not just the eldest son in the family. Time now to move to the fact of the day. Today, we will be talking about a recent phenomena which is usually seen around the world in sporting events, especially, that is taking a knee. It is closely related to the Black Lives Matter movement. As you would know, this is a phenomena closely related to fight against racism throughout the world. It mainly started in the year 2020 with the killing of a black man called George Floyd in the US. He was a black man killed by the police in the US without committing any crime. Since then, this Black Lives Matter movement has spread across the world, starting from the US. In a lot of sporting events, especially in football and now in cricket also, you see a lot of people, not just on the black community, but others also, bending on one knee, which is considered as standing in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. In the recent T20 World Cup game, you saw the Indian cricket team also sitting in this gesture, taking a knee. This was covered in the Indian Express newspaper that yesterday in one of the cricket matches in the T20 World Cup, the South African team was told by their cricket board to take the knee, but the South African wicketkeeper Quinton de Kock refused to take the knee and thus refused to take part in that match. As you can understand, there are many people who are against this gesture, who consider that not just the black lives but every single life on this planet matters. So they don't support this movement and they don't bend the knee. This is it for today's class. Thank you so much for watching.